Well, welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast. This is Wyatt and Jake today, and we're going to start diving into a little bit of our story, a little more about how we became who we are today and things leading up from elementary school into middle school, stuff and tragedy we faced in our life, and just kind of how it shaped us to today, how everything moment kind of matters and how things kind of shape us. So I'm excited to dive into this, Wyatt.
Yeah, me too. I've been really looking forward to this, and I think it's a good way to start off the year 2023.
Yeah,
So get to
it
learn more
really has
about it.
been fun interviewing all the people from Jason Romano, Drake Baronic, Griegel. But this is really something that's been on Wyatt and I's heart going forward, just to share more of our story, because that's what really transforms you and impacts you, is other people's story and seeing the things that they face.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of why we called the show "Be Unexpected." You know, a lot of stuff that happened to us, like we did not expect to happen, it's unexpected, and but then when we came back too, like no one really thought we'd accomplish what we accomplished because of the stuff we've been through. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like the reasoning for that name is just the stuff we'd been through. So
Yeah, and as reading some of the stuff that you shared with me, just the chances of you surviving, making it into elementary school into where you're at's pretty amazing. So I'm excited to dive into that. But first off, Wyatt, so you have something called cerebral palsy. I want to
yeah,
explain to everyone what that is and what kind of how it affects you.
Yeah, so cerebral palsy, I just call it CP for
CP.
short because it's easy.
Yeah.
So CP, it affects like the right side of my body the most. It's probably throughout my whole body because my fingers are pretty weak and it's hard for me to open things. And then, like, mostly it's in my right arm. I can't really lift my hand up at all. I mean, I can do it, but it doesn't just stay there. And it actually took me not till high school, and I could actually lift my hand up because of physical therapy. And I just have like my muscles aren't don't work as well. Like I had a brain bleed on the left side of my brain when I was a baby, that which caused it to affect my right side. And it's just like lifting things is hard for me, or like if I go to open a door with my right hand, I have to like think about, okay, how do I grab the door? Then how do I turn it? I kind of cheat too. I use my body because like my arm's not strong enough, but I can't just like react like with my left and just open the door. I have to like manually think about it. And um CP is like it affects the muscles, might affect my cells. I'm not really sure. I have like these weird stuff that I kind of notice with cerebral palsy is like my hair grows longer on the left than the right, or I'll sweat more on the left than the right. It's really weird. Or like I'll put sunscreen on and I'll put like a bunch on my right arm, but then it looks like I got burned the next day and didn't put any on. So it's kind of like those funny and weird things that happen. Like, oh, I guess it might be this way because of my CP, or I don't know. Just like weird things like that happen
Mhm.
that you notice. And I mean the obvious is like my left side is longer than my right. Um, but growing up, I didn't really think I had a disability or didn't want to like admit it right away because I'm a twin and my twin brother Weston, he wasn't born with any uh medical conditions. Oh wait, no, that's not true. He might have had trouble breathing like I did. We were born 2 months premature and everything, and like I had trouble breathing, and so did Wes. But Wes went home after the first month, and I went home 6 months later because my esophagus wasn't attached to my stomach. And so, like, I have this thing called a T fistula. And so, basically, what that is, it's like this wrap that they put to connect my stomach to my esophagus. And that has nothing to do with my CP. Like, throughout growing up, people thought, like, oh, so like your medical conditions are part of your CP. I was like, no, I was just that lucky to get both, you know? So, along with my disability, I also have those medical conditions, which honestly probably affected or affects my life more now than my disability does. because you learn to live with your disability. But with medical conditions, I could be fine for months, and then like for 6 months, and then the next 6 months I could be going through some medical thing with my esophagus or who knows what, or just getting sick and stuff. And I think that kind of holds me back more than my disability does, just because like when you're sick, you can't do anything. Disability, I've learned like you can figure things out, like simple things like carrying stuff. I use my body a lot. I like push something against my chest to hold it, or like instead of using my hand, I just use my right arm to steady things. And sometimes I depend all on my left side. Like if I lift something up, I put all the weight on my left. If I lift up like heavy box or something, and then my right hand's just there to steady it, but my left side has all the weight on it. So just kind of interesting ways to figure things out. So it's definitely been a journey, that's for sure.
So yeah, it sounds like you just made it work. And even, growing up, I do wonder, so what was it like, when so originally you just used your left hand to write and do things, and now you're able to, not make joke, but just kind of say it and be open about it and feel comfortable. What was it like being do you remember in elementary school, kids maybe looking at you differently or saying things differently that affected you a lot?
Yeah, so I remember, the question was all the time like, hey, what's wrong with your hand? And then just
Yeah.
like, oh, I have CP, and as like a kid, that like kind of messed with my confidence. It
Hmm.
was like, I don't know, because I didn't really understand my disability that well.
Right.
I'm only like 7, 8 years old, and I just want to play just like the rest of my friends, and
Hmm.
I don't really want to talk about my disability. And uh yeah, it was just like, every time someone would ask me on the outside, I'd feel like, yeah, no big deal. But on the inside, I'm like, man, stop asking me
Hmm.
about it. I never wanted my hand to look like this. And then I just remember, like, recess was like the big thing. Like, oh
Hmm.
man, like, why can't I catch the ball? I can't cover anybody on defense.
Hmm.
And see, I thought my disability was like cancer, like you could like remove it. So I remember talking to my dad and be like, well, they can take it out, right? He's like, no, that does not how it works. So like when he told me that, I was really a downer and really like disappointing because it's like, man, I'm like stuck with this forever. And when we talk about my middle school years in the next episode, I can go more into this, but it felt like a punishment more. Like,
Hmm.
like I didn't like want a disability. Nobody wants to have a disability,
Right.
you
Right.
know. And like I remember my mom told me one time, she like I don't know, she saw some picture of these like two little boys and they knew they were gonna have two boys. So they envisioned like two healthy boys. Well, that did not happen. Actually, we were both, like Wes had trouble breathing right away. So we were both a little unhealthy right away. And no parent really wants that. So on top of like me not being healthy at all, my parents had to go through like explaining to me over and over like why my cerebral palsy affects me. And I didn't really want to accept it really and didn't understand until probably middle school. But elementary was just like I always knew I was slow and I also knew I was slow because I wore this huge brace, like this brace that looked like kind of like a cast you would wear, like if you broke your leg or something. But this brace that went up from my like ankle all the way up to my knee, and it was really annoying because it get hot and stinky, and then it would pinch you all the time.
Just
And
one
then
leg you had to wear that on, or both?
yeah, just the one leg, just
Okay.
my right leg. And what they would do is they would take like they would like make it. They I don't know. They put like this gooey stuff on me and they'd make a cast out of my leg and I'd always have to go in and get a new one because I would grow. So I had to get a new cast and I would drag the crap out of my right leg. Like, it looked like I was injured. Half the time because I'd be limping and dragging my right foot. Um, and it was just like so frustrating. Like even the smallest things like would bug me. If I wanted a pair of shoes, I had to get like a size 4 for my left foot, but then a size 5, 5.5 for my right because I wore the brace. But if they didn't have the size 5.5, I couldn't get the shoe.
Oh man. So I
Yeah,
imagine
and
that would that led up to like a lot of physical therapy, a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of missed school because you're sick, just a lot of different things you had to go
Yeah,
to help
so I
with
went to
try to
physical
try and help with that.
yeah, so I went to physical therapy, like, I mean, right away, like, as a baby. My mom has, like, videos of me doing physical therapy, and they just, like, stretch me, and, like, every time they
Mm,
stretch me, I'd cry because like, you're naturally tight with, CP, and, I mean, I don't do the greatest job of stretching, probably better now than when I was as a kid, but I would hate it. Like, it was painful, and I didn't wanna stretch. As a kid, you're like, "Oh, I don't wanna stretch." But my mom really made sure I did it, and then one time, like, I really paid for it. I was outside playing, and I couldn't run. Like, I really could, like, not run, and I was just that tight because I wouldn't do my stretches. So I literally went inside and started stretching
did your
because I
stretches.
couldn't run. And, I mean, yeah. I just remember, like, going to physical therapy, and they besides stretching, it was, like, walking up and down steps. Like, even today, like, going down steps is harder for me. Uh, and then, like, going up, I guess I got better at because, like, I guess I got stronger, but that was difficult too. But they would even do like physical therapy for me at school. Like, they take me out of
Wow.
class, and I'd go and do a couple things, and like I'd do like even like PT stuff, I think it's called. So it's like with your hands. It's like buttoning a shirt. That was
Mm,
so boring. I was
yeah.
not happy to do that. But then like after school, like maybe you would go outside and play with your friends or go watch TV. I had to go to physical therapy, and I was not happy. I
Yeah.
was tired from school because with CP, you're using so much energy, like 10
Just
times
to
more the
do
energy.
everything,
Yeah,
everything's a whole. It's just
yeah.
harder.
And then like, walking around or playing at recess or just sitting and trying to like learn. I had trouble in school, and uh I would come home and be tired, and then drive to Omaha and go to physical therapy, and then I'd always throw like a fit and be upset that we were there because I took a nap in the car. And I was like, "Oh, I wanted this nap." But eventually I'd have fun because I went to this place. They had a bunch of games, and they had like a ball pit thing that was really fun to play in, and a basketball hoop and all these games. But the bummer was I could only do the games if I used my right side. Oh,
Oh.
I would do that for an hour, all the physical activity, and
Hmm.
then for like another 30 minutes, I'd button and
Mm,
unbutton a vest or something like that.
yeah.
And that was really boring.
Today we are buttoning vest and tying shoes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my, tying shoes was so frustrating. Like, my parents probably tied my shoes for me until fifth grade, maybe. I
Yeah.
know sixth grade I could tie my own shoes, but even today, like, I can't tie them that tight. But uh my parents were always tying my shoes, and they're like, "You gotta learn to tie them." So we are trying to figure out ways I could do it because I only had one good arm,
Yeah.
and so that was really like difficult and frustrating. And then like zipping up a coat, we tried, and I could do it if I laid a coat down, but, like, if it's just on me, I honestly leave my jacket open most of the winter
Yeah.
because I can't zip it unless someone zips it for me, or, like, I'll zip it, then unzip it halfway and throw it off because
Oh,
I
okay.
can't get it back. Sometimes
Gotcha.
that's kinda hard. I've actually ripped a couple jackets doing that. So,
Oh, that reminds
but,
me when I do that with ties. So I can't really tie a tie very well, so I'll just pull it down a little bit, and then you can
oh,
and just
yeah.
toss it
I
right off.
mean, I had my dad. I think everyone, doesn't matter if you have a disability or not, everybody has their dad tie their tie for
Yeah.
them,
Yep.
and I had my dad do that, and then I just, like, left it. But when I worked at, like, Hy-Vee in high school, I mean, I just bought clip-ons,
Yep.
and then, like, as a little kid, my sister got married when I was, like, 10. I just wore a clip-on tie. It's
Yeah.
like, my dad was smart, like, "Why am I gonna give my disabled son, who has one good arm, a tie? Let's just
Yeah.
get a clip-on."
Yeah. And sometimes it's like I didn't even know it was a clip on. It looks so darn good.
I know,
Yeah.
like, it was easy. I think even today, like, guys wish they could just wear clip-ons because it's
Yeah.
not easy.
It makes me think I might go get a clip-on tie.
Yeah. Just find one that's, like, long enough. Don't get, like, a really
Yeah,
short
really
one.
short. It's like, dude, you're 26 year olds wearing a clip-on. Get a life. So maybe you can explain a little bit some of the memories you had with Wes and what was that relationship like growing up? Because you explain all these, things that affected you, and Wes, he could, catch, he could zip his coat up, do these things. So how did that affect you guys' relationship growing up?
So I think as like kids, we just, accepted that I had a disability, and he didn't understand either, really.
Right.
Like he would kind of get on me like, oh, like, why can't you do this? Or like playing catch. Like it just took him
Mm,
forever to like I had to catch and throw with the left arm. So he'd be like, will you throw the ball? I mean, this is so slow. And then just like me now, I'm learning to tie my shoes. Like, I don't think you got like, well, I can do it yet. Or like even like we'd go out and my like shirt would be like it looked fine on my lap, but then it'd be like slumped down past my shoulder. And he's like, dude, like pull your shirt up. Like, what's and I was like, I can't help it. It just slides down. I
yeah.
don't know. And I think too, it's just like both of us, like, like I said, like we're under the age of 10 or even at
Mm,
10 years old. Like we're not fully understanding like what I go through or, what I deal with my medical issues. Like I remember like too, uh Wes would always wonder like, why is Wyatt always sick? Like he's always sick. Or he always gets to stay home from school.
yeah.
And there was just those moments where like he wondered why I would go through stuff, and I really could not explain it to him. My parents not only, I mean, think about it, you not only trying to explain to your son that has a disability, but you got to explain it to two of your sons that this is what he goes through, and you're not really like you don't really get like why I'm going through this, and we're just like elementary school kids. So yeah, I mean, like maybe we had like little arguments here and there, but mostly like it was pretty fun. Like Wes would like kind of like let me win when we were like
Mm.
really young. Like we were like 5 and we would play like football in the front yard. I remember we had like this little Nebraska football and we'd play 1-on-1. And what you would do
That
is
was the
like,
best.
yeah. And we would play 1-on-1. And so we'd have like coats or sweatshirts on and you'd let the other guy get past you and then pull his hood. And so we would always do that. And like I would win, then he would win. And I remember playing like wiffle ball in the front yard. It always came down to like the last play of the plate, and it was always either a slide home plate or like I couldn't slide. So I'd just run into him and try to push him down and hopefully he dropped the ball. And I think sometimes I felt like I hit him hard enough where he dropped the ball, but he might have dropped the ball on purpose
Mm,
now. I look back on
mm.
it.
Looking back, you
And
might have.
yeah. And so we would play that and then like basketball, play 1-on-1 and horse. But then when we got to 9 years old, and I don't know if he just decided or my parents said, like, okay, now it's okay for you to do this, Weston. And he told me we're playing basketball. And he's like, I'm not gonna let you win anymore. And part of me was like, wait a minute, you let me win? I'm not really that good. And it's like, oh, I'll probably win every now and then. He'll win most of the time, but I bet I'll get a couple.
Yeah.
So he gives me the ball and I shoot it, and he just swats the ball into the street. And then I just like, it's gonna be a lot harder than I thought.
Uh,
Like, and so from then on, like I never, ever, ever won. Like in anything we did 1-on-1. Unless like sometimes we'd play a video game and he'd keep it close and then win at the end, or if he was getting like really mad, that means he messed up and I was actually playing good in the game and I beat him. But most time, like he would just destroy me. Like we'd play to like 50 1-on-1 in basketball, and he beat me like 50-8. Or
dang,
like
dang,
we
Wes.
play we'd play pitch and catch all the time.
Yeah.
And so like I had to catch for him, but he could never throw that hard because I
Mm.
didn't have the reaction time. So my dad really bought me like the catcher's gear, mask, and the chest protector. But he had good control because he would throw hard, but not hard like a game, so I could catch his pitches.
Mm.
And the sad thing is what we should have done. We should have got a tennis ball because
Oh yeah.
one time he wanted me to bat for him, and so we had like a pitch back, and then that was the catcher, and then I was batting for him. So then he just started throwing hard and hard, and I got a hold of a couple. I think mostly like on his changeup, and I actually hit the house a couple times. I think I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And but we would play like fun games all the time. Like my two favorite games we would play is we'd get like everything we could in the garage and pile it in at the end of the driveway, and then you get the skateboard out and you lay on the skateboard and someone would push you down and you ram into the stuff, and hopefully that would stop your momentum so you wouldn't go in the street. And then one time we would get a wagon, and we had this green wagon, and you'd like pull the other one in the wagon, but then push them down the driveway, and you had to catch them before they went out into the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember doing stuff like that.
Yeah, we'd always do like we were just little shits. Like we
It
were told not to do that
was
anymore with the wagon game. And so what we would do is just wait for our mom to go around back to the backyard, and we're like, let's get the wagon.
yeah,
Yeah. And then
that's
we got
fun.
to a point where Weston's like, all right, here's how you steer it. So that way if I can't catch you, you won't go on the street and you can hit the mailbox.
Oh, got it lined up perfect. That's great. Oh,
Yeah. And so like just doing stuff like that, like Wes
mhm.
was really like my big brother, but I was actually the oldest, but like a minute. But Wes had to help me like learn a lot of stuff and just teach me how to do things because I like either couldn't physically do it or I didn't understand how to do it. And I remember like even like I don't know, just like weird things you do as a kid, like walking up, like the slide, you'd walk up it. Like
Mm,
we'd climb up
yep.
the slide
Yeah.
backwards. So he had
Yeah.
like one day at the park, he taught me all afternoon how to do that. And we did it for like an hour and until I got it. And then like riding our bikes. I mean,
Mm, yep.
like I had my training wheels on longer than he did. And it got to a point where my parents were like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to like not have kind of training wheels. So when we were like 7, we got like actual bikes, and mine is just like a bike, but you put like two big regular tires on, but they look like training wheels, and that's so I could balance. Because we would take the training wheels off, and my dad would teach us. I fell over all the time. Like Weston even tried to teach me, and I would just like fall on the sidewalk, hit a tree, hit the mailbox. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But Wes was always just teaching me like stuff that other kids do, and he wouldn't stop till I got it right or till we figured out a way to, you know, make it adjustable or adaptable to me.
Mm,
So yeah, that was like a really good thing about having a twin is there's always somebody there to play with and do something with.
yeah.
So
So it sounds like it did, the relationship did kind of obviously started kicking your butt in sports and more, but you guys did have a lot of great memories and a lot of great things that you did together and just were elementary and young kids just doing the random stuff. So that's great. Would you say, so kind of change the subject, going into more, you shared in that document with me talking about like death and funerals. And when your parents told you about you know what you went through as a baby, when you could finally understand it, do you remember what your emotions or what the feelings were like when they said, you know, you barely survived, and then you told me you started thinking about funerals and death. You remember those emotions when they shared with you?
yeah, so I mean, like I don't remember any memories, but when they talk about, it, I can see the pictures in my head, and it's just
Hmm.
like of me as a baby, and of all these tubes around me, and the doctors. In my mind, I took it as the doctors didn't think I would live. Like for years, I thought
Yeah.
that, like, oh man, how could they say that about me? But really, it was they didn't know.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew what was happening. They didn't say I would die, but they didn't say I was gonna make it either. It's like,
Hmm.
we'll wait and see what
Yeah.
happens. And as a kid, I just took it as a negative thing. Like, man, I can't believe that people counted me out, or like that I had to go through all that. And like I feel the effects from those. I went through like 13 surgeries in 6 months, and most of it or half of it or whatever was like due to my esophagus and my stomach not being
Hmm.
attached. There was a point my lungs got damaged during one of the surgeries, or they just worked on me so much that I have, I think it's called reactive airway disease. So my lungs were just kind of weaker than everybody else's. So I'd get like pneumonia and bronchitis all the time. And yeah, I mean, just like I don't remember any of that, but I deal with the side effects of it like
Hmm.
every day. And as a kid, I just saw it as like a negative thing, like, oh, I'm gonna prove people wrong. I made it, and I'm gonna like just go out and prove it to people that, I deserve to like be here in life. But I think too, I took it too personally because it just is like I'm just mad I went through all that. Even though I don't remember it, I'm mad I had to deal with all the side effects, the cerebral palsy, and then like it's so hard to say.
CP.
But the CP and just the medical conditions I have, just getting sick all the time. And I just bring it all back to like the day I was born.
Mhm.
Like, man, if I didn't go through that crap, the 13 surgery in the first 6 months, I almost died a couple times. They couldn't even like wheel me out to the operating room because when they would unhook, they like unhook you from the machines, I'd crash. And then like they'd have to like, I don't know, however you give a baby CPR. They had to
Yeah.
give me CPR like over and over. There was this one story I remember I kept calling my parents in the middle of the night. And it was like how many times they gave me CPR. And I mean they gave it to me like a bunch.
Mhm.
Like a, and it got to the point where like at one time I was like life flighted to Kansas City and my heart stopped. So they had to like bring me back from that. And yeah, it was just like a
Mhm.
huge thing of just 6 months of me being in the hospital, dealing with like all this medical stuff, and sometimes the stuff that worked like went terribly wrong. Like they put this tube down my throat, and like I aspirated or it got into like to my lungs or something, like fluid did, and so like was making me worse. So the doctor just came in and pulled out this tube, and then I was better. But yeah, I mean, I remember like my parents said I turned blue. Obviously, my heart stopped,
Mhm.
and then just like the constant like surgeries and actually like they were talking like elementary, then like 12 years later. So yeah, I'm 12 years old. I dealt with like memory pains and I was like all the memory pains from the 13 surgeries. Like I got sick like
All the
Sunday.
adding up, all the surgeries, all the
Yeah.
trauma that's done to your body. Yeah.
It had to do with the brain too. Like something
Yeah.
triggered in my brain and like or something. And I got like sick like just as normal, and then started having like these severe sharp pains, and then like the real bottom of my stomach would be tight. And then if I would ever get like nervous or scared or anything, like then those like nerve things would kick in, and I just went through all this stomach pain, and like when I would eat, I felt like sick all the time, every bite I took, and then like I ended up missing like over 66 days of school in fifth grade, and it was like probably the first time I remember going through like real adversity because
Mhm.
I didn't remember anything from when I was a baby,
Right.
and like just going through all that, and on top of that, I was just getting sick normally, like I would always do. So I remember like this one day, it was like a Wednesday because we always had half days on Wednesdays,
Yeah.
like the first of the month. So Wes comes home and he drops off his school stuff and he grabs his baseball glove and we would go play like baseball at Belfield in the big field in our elementary. And so he was gonna go play baseball with our friends. And I'm like sick with the stomach pains, but also I have some virus. So I'm feeling like really sick. And then he leaves and I don't know, I just like kept thinking like, man, what if this takes the turn of like the absolute worst and I do die?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm like 12, I'm like only 12 years old. And like it scared the crap out of me because like I don't want to die. But I just thought like I wonder like who would show up, like what music would play, what songs would I have? That was always really important to me.
Yeah.
What songs would I have? That's always
Mm-hmm.
important.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean I'm like 12 years old and you're supposed to be thinking about like what you're gonna be when you grow up and like what you're gonna do with your friends, what's like gonna be when you go to high school. And I'm just like, man, I wonder if I'll make it. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like probably overreacting a little bit too, but I'm like 12 years old, and I'm just like, I felt like I was never gonna get better, like at
Yeah.
all. And then like on top of that, like, so that was like January, I started getting bad. So it was like January of 2008, and then like that summer in June, I like started feeling dizzy all the time, and I just would call my mom from work and be like, "Hey, I'm like feel dizzy." She'd say, "I'll just lay down and stuff." Well, we found out I have blood sugar have a blood sugar condition that like if I eat too much, my blood sugar goes up and then it drops like really low. Like I remember one time it dropped to like 30, and if it goes like past 30, it's like a diabetic coma. But it
Mm.
was like I don't remember anything. Like I remember being in the waiting room one time, and I'm like laying on that table they have, just kind of waiting for the doctor, and I thought I blacked out, but I didn't. The next thing I knew, I was on my dad's leg, but I had no idea how I got there. And it went to like 30, and I'm on my dad's leg because he's trying to get me to drink orange juice. And when your blood sugar goes low, you kind of like you get like really tired and you're not really thinking straight at all. So I was like not wanting to drink it. My dad was pretty good at like forcing me to do things that I didn't want to do that were like, good for me. So my dad was the one that like forces orange juice down me so I could like drink it or get me to drink it, not really force it. But uh yeah, I just remember like that, going through that. So I went from like the stomach pains to the blood sugar issues, just all that in all that year. Like I went through all that medical stuff, and I don't know, that moment me like thinking about like death. I'm just like, wow. Like what if
Yeah.
and it would like scare me. But then like I would think about it more and more, like not all the time when I was sick. It was just more like when I would go through some big medical thing, I'd be sick for like ever. Like, and ever for me is like over a month. If I'm sick for a month, it's not really like that big a deal to me. But it was just like when I go through some medical condition that would just pop up. And then as I got older, I got like less scared of thinking about it. It was kind of brought me more at peace, I guess, to think about it, especially when I got in like high school and like my early 20s. Cause like, well, I could die. It's always a
Mm.
possibility. You never know. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like most likely I won't, but I don't know what's gonna happen. So I like would literally just take it like day by day and just like I don't really care about the future right now. I just care about like now, trying to get
Hmm.
better so I can go out and just do like regular things, go to work, or like
Hmm.
as a kid, like just go back to school and
Hmm.
be on the team. And I remember like basketball at that time in fifth grade really helped me get through things. I wasn't able to like play basketball, but I remember like watching it all the time and just like it like brought me at peace because like I didn't think about my like stomach pains or try not to think about them, and then being sick because I just focused on the game or like just watching like sports documentaries or movies. Like I would always uh just think about like what they went through, like some motivational sports movie, and then I'd kind of like cheer me up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have Netflix,
Hmm.
so like I'd watch like Remember the Titans like two times in one day in the
Yeah.
summertime.
Got it on repeat. A lot of that, all of that just kind of sounds like a lot of that helped you to live more in the present than looking at the future, like death. And as a 12-year-old, imagine death and then all the thoughts that come with that. It's a lot to process and think about. So the way it sounds like you kind of change your perspective, especially as you got older, to living more, doing things more that keep you living in today and not just so focused on what could happen, right?
Yeah, and like I mean, I didn't do it. Like it's funny, like I learned all this stuff and like just going through my sickness. So you think in sports, like I'd have like a kind of like a present of the moment. I did
Mm-hmm.
not. I was so
Yeah.
competitive. I always looked towards the future and wouldn't like have a really good mental game. But when
Mm-hmm.
it came time to like actually real stuff, I think my mindset was better when I would get sick than when I played sports because, like it was a bigger deal. Like my life, man. I'm trying to
Yeah.
like get better. And
Yeah.
so, and I think a real frustrating thing too, especially like with my blood sugar when it happened, like nobody knows right away. Like, why is this happening? So like that's like the most scary part when no one knows.
Yeah.
Not that they like won't figure it out, but like, man, if
Right.
the doctor doesn't know, they can't diagnose me right away. What's gonna happen?
Right.
And as a 12-year-old, you're thinking like the absolute worst.
The uncertainty or yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was like pretty hard, but I mean, I got through it and definitely taught me how to get through adversity. So,
So
and
so kind of closing up and finishing on this section of your story. You kind of talked about here what it kind of impact you make on others, but as a younger boy, other than your mom and dad, was there a few people growing up that made a specific impact on your life that kind of shaped your life, or friends or other family members?
yeah, I remember in third grade, I had this teacher, Mr. Jensen, and like he really he was the resource teacher. You know, it was cool to have a male as a teacher because I didn't really
Right.
have them that much.
Yeah.
And he would really push me to do better. Like my writing was always not the greatest, so I kind of accepted that. So I turned the paper and he's like, "You can do better than that. Write it again." Or he taught me how to do multiple or adding and subtracting, but using your fingers. So I had this thing where I would just count and count, and then start over on my left hand again, at 11. And he's like, "How do you do that?" And it's like, "I don't know. You taught me how to, you know, use my fingers to count
Hmm.
ahead or multiply or whatever," and it worked for me.
Yeah.
And then he would just always push me to want to do better. I think some teachers accepted that I had CP. It's like, oh,
Right.
it's right, it's not going to be very good or something like
Yeah.
that. And so he just really pushed me to want to be better at whatever I did, no matter if I had one good arm or not, or two good arms in writing
And
or math or whatever.
and
And
that
then
sounds like something I mean, that you wanted, as a competitive young boy and just going to
yeah,
West, you didn't want to oh, he has CP, so we're gonna let this slide. You wanted to be pushed, and probably more in sports than school, but just in life in general.
yeah. I had a lot of good teachers that
Hmm.
did, but there was always the occasional oh, they just kind of let me slide.
Right.
And but I just remember Mr. Jensen really pushed me to, and math was hard.
Yeah.
I really did not like math. It was really frustrating to me. And because I don't know, if you read something, I can remember it really well. But math, it's not reading. You have to figure it out. And I couldn't remember all the steps. And
Mhm.
but he just helped me try to do better. And then my sister Jessica, she was really pushed me to be competitive. She would beat Wes and I at board games, sports, whatever it was, but she was always really competitive and I hated losing to her all the time. And she kind of built that fire in Wes and I to be competitive.
Right.
So I always made the joke when we got older, well, if we piss anybody off, Wes and I, because we're super competitive, you can blame our older sister, Jessica, because she developed two monsters. And
Yeah.
so, but she really was a big impact on my life, obviously growing up. And then um probably when I went through that stomach pain and I finally got over it, I'd say I think this summer going into middle school, um I started hanging out with Kenny Bristol, and he lived right down the street from Wes and I. And we were always friends before, we played sports together and stuff. But Kenny and I just became closer, and
Mhm.
Wes. And we always would come over and shoot hoops and do a bunch of stuff. And Kenny would come over to our house. And I don't know, Kenny and Wes just always didn't treat me like I had a disability. They just treated me like any of our other friends. So,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
a big thing, coming outside your family, because
Hmm.
Kenny's not there every day like Wes is.
Right.
But I think being friends with Kenny really
Mhm.
made a huge impact on my life.
Yeah.
So
Well, awesome. Any other remarks, comments, or memories from kind of the elementary, early ages of you growing up?
no, just good old YMCA basketball. I
Yeah.
have a funny memory. I think it was third grade. I had no stats, I think. And I had one stat though, finally in one game where I had a rebound, one rebound.
Yeah.
And it was because I was standing there and I wasn't probably supposed to be down in the paint, but the ball hit me in the face, and then I caught it because my arms were out. So that was my one stat. So it's kind of funny memories like that, just growing up.
Yeah.
And but yeah, just I did a lot of regular stuff as any other of the other
Hmm.
kids, but just had CP.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that and being open and vulnerable about some memories and some tough stuff growing up. So, well, yeah, thanks for listening. We'll have more of Wyatt's story and then my story coming up too in the following week. So, if you want to check out more about some of our previous episodes or message us or get a hold of us, we're on Twitter at Be Unexpected, Instagram, Facebook, and you can email us at beunexpected100 at gmail.com. Thank you guys. See ya.
see you.